Often when you say cultural diplomacy, people think of the Cold War era when the United States very successfully, I might add, sent jazz musicians and artists and theater artists all around the world, particularly focused on the Iron Curtain countries, trying to represent American values of freedom of speech in contrast to the authoritarian system of the Soviet Union. And that worked extremely well. You may notice the Berlin Wall fell down, Soviet Union fell apart. Not exclusively because of that, but it was a brilliant marriage of soft power and hard power. You know, today I think we have to take a slightly different approach. And that is the approach that was first suggested by Joseph Nye at Harvard when he talked about soft power. Soft power being the persuasive power of modeling behavior that you want others to emulate. And then that gives you the influence. So this comes in all different forms. For example, it comes from Apple products, from Google, from American culture, from Australian culture. You know, for anyone, it's not just the government. It comes in all fields. The important thing, though, is that you have to walk the walk. You can't just say, I stand for this, because in contrast to the era when diplomacy was men in suits, and I'm sorry to say it really was men in suits, around a table, now we have this very exciting but a little scary age of 24/7 communication, social media, citizen journalism, so everyone knows what's going on all the time. So when you say you stand for something, you have to actually stand for it.
Are there indications soft diplomacy is working as effectively these days, Cynthia, than it did back in the days of the Cold War?
You know, it's a mixed picture, but yes, absolutely, in certain ways. I mean, I give the example of, like, for example, Apple as a company that's admired all around the world, and it stands for ingenuity, creativity. Another example I'd give of culture spreading is hip-hop music. You know, and again, that wasn't a government project, but it has been picked up all over the world with exactly the same spirit as it began in the United States, a music of protest, of outsiders.
You mentioned 24/7 communication. The era of social media and the like, in a sense, escapes policymakers. That's something they can't control, and that's where that social and that cultural discussion is going on beyond your grasp and beyond your control. So that's both a threat and an opportunity, isn't it?
It's absolutely correct. I think the first response from your government, I might add, slightly more slowly than mine, but nonetheless, the first response was, oh great, we will have Facebook pages for all our embassies. We will use this to send out our messages. In my view, that is not the point. The point is that you can learn from social media. I'll give a classic example in the United States effort to counter violent extremism. There was a program, people don't really like to talk about it because it was pretty much of a failure, which was the Think Again, Turn Away program, a hashtag in English on the State Department website that was supposed to deter extremists. You can imagine how well that worked. Now, an alternative, which a friend of mine, Nadia Owedad, working on Washington think tank, has suggested, is to, of course, look at, it's all going on in Arabic. And what there are all these brilliant thinkers, funny satirists, cartoonists, videos. This is all going on in Arabic. What you need is a platform to raise up those voices, because what you have online, and this is how people are becoming radicalized, is a vast offering of extremist writings and saying this is how you should lead your life. We need to raise up the moderate voices so that they can be heard and accessed as easily, but they don't come from the State Department.
I can imagine.
That is so true. Just before we go, Cynthia, you're a former diplomat, clearly a very educated woman. Can you explain to our viewers just what is going on in the US presidential race?
Oh, yes. Well, I can do that in 1 minute very easily. Well, you know, I'll give you an idea. People are angry. People feel betrayed. And for some reason, the reaction to the 2008 financial crisis is really reaching a crescendo now. I would add this is happening in popular culture also. You have The Big Short. You have a movie coming out this month, Money Matters, with George Clooney, Julia Roberts, soundtrack by Bruce Springsteen, again, against this financial crisis. People feel the effects still. They hear that the economy is recovering, but they don't feel it, and they feel their politicians have done done nothing to help them.
So they turned to a rich man who was unaffected by it?
Well, as I said, I can't explain everything, but for some reason, speaking rudely and knowing virtually nothing and saying virtually nothing, but in a kind of angry, emotional way, is viewed as authentic. You know, at the same time, we have an incredibly exciting candidate in Hillary Clinton, you know, our first real, female candidate for president, who has such great experience. Unfortunately, that's a bad word this year. But I would say more than that, incredible dedication to making people's lives better.
Can she win, though? Excuse me. And President Donald Trump, is that a realistic possibility?
Well, you remember what I said about you have to walk the walk?
Yeah.
You can imagine what America's soft power around the world would be with President Donald Trump.
Are you a registered Democrat?
Am I allowed to say that? Of course.
Yes, okay. Just for clarification on the program.
Of course, and I really look forward to, when I voted for Hillary Clinton in the primary, I have to say I burst into tears at the polling station.
Well,
I
let's
thought
see.
I was nuts.